Welcome to the Morning Sanity Check, where we talk about the different pillars of resilience: spiritual, physical, social, and mental. Join us so we can talk about it, then be about it. Let the show begin.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day and welcome to the Sanity Check. My name is Seth,
And I'm Camille.
and we're here to make sure everything is good with you. Part of being well and practicing great wellness checks is making sure you're sane in the process. So if this is your first time here, good morning. Hey, how you doing, Matt? Good morning. Hey, ma'am, how are you? So if this is your first time, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you go to streamyard.com/Facebook so that your comments and everything can be posted. All right. So what's going on, Camille? How's everything?
Everything is everything. Things are going good. I'm happy, healthy, and whole.
Mhm.
And it's been a pretty good week for me. So I have no complaints whatsoever. How about yourself?
It's going all right. It's going all right. I'm just still trying to just get my days wrapped around. It seems like now that the times are changing, the season is changing, the days are getting shorter. So I feel like I need to hurry up and do everything that I need to do within that day. So it's crazy. Good morning. Good morning. Good
Morning.
morning. So yes, everyone, welcome. And please make sure you share this. It's only going to take a couple seconds just to share this because we're going to be giving out a lot of great information about confirmation bias. Now, last week, if you joined us, we spoke a little bit about it, or a lot of bit about it. But this week, we want to go into some more different type of biases, but also what it can do to you personally and physically. What you think, Camille?
Absolutely. A lot of times we don't even know we have these biases. And if we don't know what they are, we don't know how they affect us. And then when we become aware of what they are and we can kind of acknowledge or see how it does affect us, then we can make changes, right? So we can put ourselves in a better mental state, a better emotional state, a better physical state, because a lot of what goes on psychologically manifests itself physically in our bodies. And so we wonder why some things are out of whack. And typically it's because our minds are also out of whack. So
Yeah.
we just want to help get you back together.
Yes. So yes, good morning. And yes, and another thing too with understanding a different confirmation bias, people tend to, and I know I'm guilty of this, learning something and start to try to connect who do we think that falls in line with. Okay, that's one way, but the most important thing is, how do I think, right? Why do I make the choices that I make? So if you can remember the last time we talked about who taught you how to love, who taught you how to connect with people, who taught you that? And it's a rhetorical question, seriously and generally, but there's situations and events that may have happened in our lives that cause us to think a certain way. With that being said, you need to think about what type of, I guess, what type of result did you receive based off of your confirmation bias or falling into someone else's confirmation bias. So we're going to dive into those today. So you ready, Camille?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So here's the first one.
All right. So I am going to be talking a little bit about what we call anchoring bias. So there are several different types of biases out there. All of us fall into 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, if I'm honest. But we're just trying to give a name to it and kind of walk you through it and how do we avoid those things so that we can, grow our relationships and our friendships and everything like that. So with anchoring bias, it's one of those things that we rely heavily on, like the first piece of information that we receive. We get a number or a thing. So say that with the deaths of corona, I'll just use that as an example, right? So we say, we're going to have 100,000 person loss. Well, then anything we kind of judge or make adjustments about how we want to interpret that information. And when we get different information, we decide whether it's faulty or whether it's true based on the initial information that we give. Maybe that's not a good one, but I'll give you an example, right? So that kind of, maybe puts it in perspective for you. But say somebody is going to court. They were charged with a burglary, right? So the prosecutor starts with the argument, Mr. X has a long criminal history. And I just want you to think about that as we discuss the evidence in this case. Table that. Right? They go on, talk about all this evidence. Well, the jury already has that anchored in their mind that he's a criminal, right? Even though the evidence may clearly show that Mr. X was not complicit in this case, this particular burglary, and that all the facts are there that he wasn't even there, the anchor has already been placed. It's already been set in their minds that he's a criminal, and the probability of him committing this crime is really, really great. So even though the evidence is stacked that says he has not done it, you'll have some jurors that go, but he's a criminal. Mm-hmm. He could have done it. He could have hid the evidence or whatever. So a lot of times in courtrooms, that anchor is set already. They place, an idea in the person's mind, and they have to judge all the new evidence or all the facts against what they initially heard. Mm-hmm. So we do that a lot in life. It is anything, from how I was looking up how judges do sentencing. So based on, say, the average, they'll give them and say, well, this person on average gets this sentencing for this particular crime. Judges will increase or decrease based on that anchor, because there's a few of them that go, wait, that doesn't seem right or whatever. But they will typically base their the way that they sentence off of that initial anchor, and most of the time it's on the high side. Mm-hmm. So those are just simple examples of anchoring bias, how we just stick to that first set of information we know. And in today's times, we always talk about it where, information is regurgitated and be like, okay, those are the same talking points. I'm not going to get into the political realm, but, those are the same talking points. And then when you ask for any evidence to support that, there's none there.
See?
It's just something that was regurgitated because they anchored everything. So when they're seeing stuff or hearing stuff, it's based on that initial idea that was given to them. And they hold so firm to that, even when there's evidence to disprove, again, that thing is false.
Right.
So that's called an anchoring bias. Mm-hmm. So I just want to ask you, Seth, I'm going to talk about how to avoid it. But before we go into that, is there any idea that maybe you held on to? That you got a bit of information and you took it as golden. Good morning, Jamila. But you took it as golden, and no matter what you were presented with, you had a hard time accepting the new evidence that disproved what you initially thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard. It's hard because it's the reason why it was hard for me. It's to do or to understand. That's part of growing pains. Part of those growing pains is the feeling that you get when you find out that what you was holding so dear to isn't true, or it may be true or may have been true in that situation, but now that you are part of that equation, it's not really true anymore. Now you're forced to see another side of it. The hard part is when the proof is undeniable and it is right there, black and white. So then you're actually holding on to something that's faulty, you see? And so if I really, really want to follow or grow into a certain type of person, right? Or be the change that I want to see, the first thing I have to do is change the way I think. So I have to ask myself, wait, why did I think that in the first place? Oh, that's right. Because somebody said that happened to them. And now I've been believing that for 40 years. You
right.
know what I mean? So I have no reason not to believe that. But today I do. Mm-hmm. Yes, and see, that's the thing. Yes, guilty of anchoring biases. Hey, and good morning, everybody. And so, yes, to your point, we have to really take a look and think about it. Why are we holding on to something even though everything in front of us is not true? It's showing that it's not true.
It is. And oftentimes, and here's just like on a personal individual level, not really like a systemic level or anything like that. But like when people tell us something about someone and we begin to treat them a certain way because of the idea that was planted in us about who this person was. And so we tend to look at that person and judge them without even getting to know them because somebody else said that they were a bad person. So what they didn't tell you was that they were toxic to that person, or that their personalities just didn't match, but this person is actually good. And so when there's conflicting evidence, you're like, but they told me that this person, now I still got to watch out for them. I always got to watch my back around this person. And we spend so much time trying to find evidence to hold on to that initial idea that I think sometimes we kind of lose out on meeting good people, because of their relationship or the idea that was planted from someone else that we held on to because that was the initial impression that we got. And we were looking when we first met them for anything to confirm that, to say that, nope, they weren't a good person. And then it was, she rolled her eyes when she got here. Oh, he said this or whatever. And then we go, yep, it must be true.
So, that you're absolutely right. You're right. And, that ties in real good to the next one, contrast effect.
I was going to say, before we go forward, I do want to just talk about some ways to avoid that.
Okay.
So before we, get into it too much, but with anchor and bias, one of the best ways to really kind of overcome that, you ever hear some people talking about devil's advocates? We want to talk about the devil. So sometimes it's good to bring in another person to say, you know what, this is the idea that I believed, and this person is arguing this. Give us both sides of the story or a different perspective on both sides. And then it forces us to really look at the evidence from an objective person, a person who has no, dog in the fight or whatever, and then reevaluate what we initially thought. So it's always good to have that person who's a devil's advocate to come in, step in and say, okay, let me listen to both sides and let me tell you what I hear.
Right.
And so another reason, I'll just give you one more quick reason, because we are really, really unaware that this stuff is happening. These biases are something that happens on the subconscious level. You got to make sure you have the evidence. So you need to, with yourself, you don't always have to have another person, but kind of do a challenge to yourself. Come up with some reasons why this anchor may not be appropriate for this situation. Like you were talking to your point, Seth, that happened there, but it's not appropriate for here. So by doing that mental exercise of challenging your own thoughts by looking at reasons, okay, let me just see the other side. What if? You can be your own devil's advocate if you're aware that these biases exist. You can say, wait a minute, am I really, really looking at this right? Let me see. Let me, ask myself some questions. If this was somebody else or if this was another situation, would I still be doing the same thing? So getting those, coming up with those reasons as to why this anchor is not appropriate in this situation will also help you to think, do some critical thinking and come up with a fact-based or evidence-based answer rather than holding on to that anchor. That may not be true. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So now going into the next one. So the contrast effect. All right. Now, a little bit about the contrast effect, or that is a bias that refers to evaluating the performance of one person in contrast to another because of what you've experienced. Okay, so let's think about this in lines of being at work, okay, or in an organization, or whatever the case it is. You see two different people, but you are leaning towards an individual based off of your personal experiences that you may have had with someone, but you're not putting into consideration what they can do for the organization. You get what I mean? So it could be positive or it can be negative, meaning I may, be a CEO or a owner of a company. And because I have a good work or a good friendship with someone and they are interested in being in the team, they might not be the best person for that job. Whereas I have someone else that is all the way qualified, but since I already have a long-standing relationship, I know, like, and trust this person on a different level, I'm not even going to consider this other person. So I want you to ask yourself, have you ever been in that situation, right? Have you ever been in that situation where you cut out someone, or you did not even consider a person based off of the relationship that you had with someone else? Has that happened to you, Camille?
Yes, probably earlier on. Yes.
Mhm.
I try to, because I realized a while back, when you're put in charge of certain, good morning, Silas, in charge of certain projects and stuff like that, it's really important to have the right people,
Mhm.
not just your people. And so with some things, I learned early that sometimes your friends are not, you want to pull up your friends and everything, but if they're not the best fit, they're not the best fit. And I did find that out early, that I wanted to surround myself and pull other people up because, I knew them. I wanted to give them a piece of the pie and everything. And there were clearly some other people that probably could have done the job better. But after, you have a failed to, you're like, hold on, wait a minute.
Mhm.
My reputation is on the line here. I need to make sure that I have the right people in place. And so, with friends and things like that, I would say, well, if you can do the job, you know what I mean? And you can handle all of this, but if you can't, let me know, because I'll replace you,
Right.
and find somebody else. And so, but I typically try to diversify the groups, or, the people that are working to do that. But yes, I have been guilty of that. Absolutely have been guilty of that.
And so have I. And ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about confirmation biases and how to avoid certain traps. And we just finished talked about, not necessarily finished talking about, but we're currently talking about the contrast effect and how can you avoid that. So if you find yourself comparing two people, especially in, let's say, a hiring process, or you have a project that you want to do and you want to make sure you have the right people there, take some time. You don't always have to make a decision right then and there, like, you know what, my aunt is going to be the best for this because I've seen what she did. Wait, but hold tight. You get what I mean? You may not want to do that. So write down, why are you leaning towards that person versus the other person, and make sure that your assessment of each of them as an individual, that you're assessing both of them as an individual and not comparison to one another. Because sometimes we will pick someone just because we like them, or just because of, what they remember me back in the 80s. You get what I mean? And that might not be pertinent for today and this next situation. So I want you guys to really, really think about that. And again, this is the sanity check, just to make sure you're sane. You may know individuals that do this on the regular, and you may have been on the opposite end of it, and you were not chosen or picked for a specific position or promotion or whatever the case is. Just realize that not every opportunity is for you. And some no's, well, a lot of times no's, NO stands for next opportunity. Okay, because you don't necessarily want to involve yourself with individuals that think that way. So be cognizant of that. And it's not always a bad thing when that door do close. But for those of you that's just tuning in, we are talking about confirmation biases. And if you are on Facebook right now and you want to have your comment posted, make sure you go to streamyard.com/Facebook. All right, so we can get it in. All right, Camille, you ready for the next one?
Yes, but I also want to say, before I get into this bandwagon effect, y'all can call in too. We do have a call in. So if you have want to share some insights, some stories, hit a point for us or whatever, we welcome you to call in to the show, and so that we can hear you. So if you got anything, call in.
Right. So what do we have? What do you have next? You ready?
So I am.
Okay.
I am. So the bandwagon effect, we always talk about, this person, I know you've heard it 1,000 times. This person jumps on the bandwagon, they was like in this sports. And I'll just talk about sports, for instance, say somebody was a Lions fan, and back in the day, the Lions were doing good. And, I'm a diehard Lions fan. And then you get another team that comes on scene. And then now all of a sudden you see all these other people, you see that their record is going up, 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 up. And then you see all the people like that used to be so loyal to the Lions. Now they like jumping on this person. They're like, oh, that record is good. Well, now I'm going to be, I'll just say, for lack of a better, whatever, the Giants fan. I'll be a Giants fan. And so they start rooting for the Giants. You're like, man, I'm out here all alone, kind of like, I'm the only one out here by myself, still rooting for the Lions. So what tends to happen is that we worry about not fitting in. We worry about being left on the outskirts and that we're going to be ostracized or, whatever. And so then even though we're still loyal to the Lions, even though our heart is still with the Lions, because of our need to fit in or to be a part of a bigger thing or be on a winning team, we jump ship, even when it goes against our values and our morals or whatever. So we adopt those behaviors because a whole bunch of other people do the same thing. And so it's important that we kind of really evaluate our ideas, our behaviors based on merit, instead of just what other people are doing. And that happens a lot, social, political, whatever. People often, when you ask them why, I'll talk about opponents for a second, I won't get into them, but why they would vote for one opponent over another one. And you ask, no, I want to really know why. There's very little information that they have other than, well, kind of maybe everybody else is doing it. Or, you feel like you're going against the grain because you're a rebel at heart. But that person really goes against everything that you stand for. You have to reevaluate kind of why you want to be part of the majority instead of just being you. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. I felt like that too. I know I'm different than a lot of people in my career field. I think differently, and I had to just learn to be okay with that. But some people don't want to. And I'll just give you another example. And this is nothing against like, what do you call them? Anti-vaxxers or whatever the case is. People feel one way or another. But a few years ago, I had got pertussis because a lot of people in the area were not vaccinating their kids. If you don't know what pertussis is, it's what they used to call whooping cough, them old illnesses or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like coughing up my lungs. And they had to tell me that a lot of people were not vaccinating their children in the area. So that particular illness was on the rise again. And so I guess I happened to be around people. So the more people in a small area that are not vaccinated, these things start coming up again. And so that's just one thing of bandwagon. You see people, oh, well, they didn't have theirs, their kids are fine. Their kids are fine, but it's affecting other people as well. And so you have to really say, okay, do the benefits outweigh the, the possible damage that could be done or whatever, and then make a decision based on that. And I know that they do. Like I said, I'm not against them or anything like that, but I'm just saying how certain things can affect, a wider population of people because we want to jump on the bandwagon for good or for whatever or bad and do what we want to do. So, we do that. We see a lot of people, but have you jumped on what bandwagon you jumped on, sir? Because I know
I'm not a bandwagon jumper, and I think that's what I pride myself on. Right. But what a lot of times, if individuals try to sway me, right? They'll try to sway me because they have the facts that contradict the reason why. For example, I'm a Lions fan, but some people feel like, oh, I'm a Lions fan just because of Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders ain't played in the NFL for almost 20 something years, you see. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm a Lions fan for a different reason. So it comes to the point where I don't care what the stats say. I'm a fan because I'm a fan, and I don't care if you like it or not. And it's okay. We can still be cool and watch the game and talk about it or whatever, but I'm not changing my hat. I'm not changing you get what I'm saying? Who I'm rooting for. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's something to be aware of. Yeah. Right? If you're not feeling something, it's okay. It is all right. But just because the 80 or 90% is doing something that's not in line with what you're doing or the way that you feel, it's okay, because you
Yes.
have to realize that it can bleed over to some things that, if you change for one thing, you can change for other. And so then you need to ask yourself, why won't I stay put? The reason why I'm jumping on this bandwagon is because all of my friends are doing this, and now I'm going to ascribe to this, or I'm subscribing to this new way of thinking or this new team, even though deep down inside, I don't like that team. I
Right.
just want to, like you said earlier, fit in. So me personally, I don't know. I stay put, you know what I mean? Until, and then I can have the numbers or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's what's up. It's still Lions though.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
and then to that point, a lot of people don't understand that you don't have to make a decision right away.
That's right.
You can slow down the decision-making process. You can think about it. Okay, now this new team or this record is better. Allow some time to pass, because somebody will have one good season and then fall off the next. Now you really bandwagon hopping, that whole mob mentality that they just going from one thing to the other. So take some time. It's how we can avoid it. Allow yourself to process the information that you have, and then you can make a final decision based on the information that you've gathered over a period of time. So it's not just one little snippet in time, but you're kind of looking at a lot of factors to help you to come to that conclusion. And then another thing is, if you make a decision, don't try to make a decision around a whole bunch of people that are on that bandwagon. Go into an area where you don't feel pressured at home. Take the time, sit back, think about, why am I really switching sides, or what are my thought processes concerning this? I know that they want me to do this and, be around them and all this, but I just don't want to.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the decision when you're not feeling pressured by other people, you're not around a whole lot of people, you know what I mean? And so just, with that, and then also just kind of thinking about alternative views, is it good for me to go along with this? Or is it not good, and why? And so just take the time alone, take some time, be by yourself before you make decisions. There's very few decisions that you have to make on the spot like that, big decisions,
Right.
or, that you just don't have the time to act, typically when it's safety, life or death or something like that. But other than that, you typically have time to just kind of sit back and think and reevaluate. Why am I doing this?
Right.
And do I really want to be part of the group, or do I want to be who I am?
Right. So like James says, he says, some people are uncomfortable walking alone. The illusion of inclusion is like a disease at times. You're absolutely right. And then also ask yourself, are you trying to pressure someone to jump in your wagon?
Absolutely.
Think about
Absolutely.
it. Because we're all individuals, and no one really likes to be alone, so to speak, but is it your responsibility to recruit individuals to think like you? Right? It's not your responsibility. Now, what you can do, you can have the information to enlighten, but it's their responsibility if they want to, believe what you believe, or just, even entertain the other side. But don't pressure people, because sometimes that peer pressure may push individuals completely away from you based off, and you just may be trying to help, quote unquote, help them out, and they may be a Lions fan, but you're trying to really say, no, you need to be a Green Bay fan because this is the best team in America. Like, really? If that was the best team in America, why, where's their championships? Now, I know Detroit may not be a champion type of team, but that's my team. But what's going to happen is, if you're pushing so much, that one issue, it can push the whole relationship away. So be cognizant of that, and really think about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yep. And people, a lot of people are people pleasers. And so you put that pressure on them, and they're having pressure coming from all different angles. And you might be that person, and then you feel like you just want to explode. You're like, oh my God, I don't even know who I am. I don't know which direction I'm going in. Imagine the people that you're putting that pressure on. You know what I mean? That it's okay. We can still be friends and have different views.
Yes.
We can still root for different teams. You know what? You wear your cheese head and I have my lion head on. You know what I mean? And then we can go and we can have healthy competition. It doesn't mean that you have to change. And because you're not a fan, there's no connection there. And you don't, and then the other thing is I don't like fickle people anyway. You know what I mean? That every time the wind blows, you go with this and this and that. No, trees get strong by withstanding. They stand, they don't move, a little bit bending here and there. But ultimately, it builds something in you when you have to stand alone. People don't like standing alone, but it makes you, I don't know.
I think about that, especially when it comes down to friends.
Yes.
Right. You have individuals that are just fair weather friends. They're around when everything is good. Right. But then when something happens in your life and you see, it feels like the whole world is turning against you. Even that friend that was with you at that time, now they are turning against you. Now they are that fair weather friend. So think about that. That may be a bandwagon friend. They go with the majority. Oh, look what Seth doing today. It's kind of crazy, ain't it? I think it is kind of crazy. So let him go on by himself, but you don't know what Seth is dealing with.
Exactly.
You don't know that, it's something that is going on that's causing that. But if you see everyone else turning their back on me or someone, then you're turning your back. What type of friend are you? You're now a conditional friend. Exactly. So you're following everyone else's decision based off of where you see everyone is going instead of looking at what has caused it.
Yep. And my mentality is not there's no real good connotation to that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what the bandwagon effect is we think about mobs, we think of people that destroy stuff because there's groupthink. Nobody is thinking for themselves and thinking rationally or logically. I'm not going to say nobody, but you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. It's an idea that everybody just goes kind of blindly without sitting back and evaluating the evidence, the facts, how you feel, how it's in conflict with your personal views or values, your morals, whatever. And then we wonder why a lot of people are in conflict. That causes a person to be angry. When you're going against what you truly believe just because everybody else is, there's inner conflict, and that causes anger. And people act and behave in ways that they don't even know why they have all this going on. But it's because you're doing stuff outside of what you believe in or what you know to be right, just to please other people. So it's okay to walk alone.
It is. Okay. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say good morning. Welcome to the Sanity Check. If you have not done so already, please go to StreamYard.com/Facebook to give them permission to put your comment up. All right. And we're talking about confirmation biases. And if you're just joining us, we talked about the anchoring bias, the contrast effect, the bandwagon effect, and we're going to go into another one here pretty soon. But before we do, we have to take a moment to give a special shout out to our sponsors. And without them, we wouldn't be here, and including you. Stay tuned.
If you're looking to buy or sell anywhere across the 50 states, contact Jamila Seals. Jamila is a realtor with Keller Williams Marquis who exudes credibility, commitment, and determination while serving the Metro East and Scott Air Force Base, Illinois areas. Her warm and friendly approach, combined with unparalleled communication skills and enthusiasm for helping others, allows her to connect and provide clients with the best possible service and experience. There are 3 things she does with and for her clients. First, negotiate deals for you. This means she'll treat your money like it's her money. Second, guide you through a simplified process, which means she'll provide sound advice to ensure you make an informed decision in identifying or choosing the right house for you. And last but not least, creative marketing. She'll provide a cutting-edge marketing plan that's tailor-made for you. Bottom line, she's going to get the job done properly and not let you down. So if you're searching for your new dream home, give Jamila a call today at area code 618 618-202-8751. Again, that's 618-202-8751.
All right, all right. Hey, everyone. Want to welcome y'all back to the Sanity Check. My name is Seth, and I'm here with Miss Camille, and we're talking about confirmation biases and what it can do and what it can't do for you, and certain things to be aware of. And for those of you that have comments, if you would like to call in, the number is below. It's 618-792-6747, so you can communicate and give your testimonies and things that you have learned, because you don't come into this world with a owner's manual, right, or user's manual. You have to go through some things and understand certain things about life and teach. Right, be willing to share that. Be willing to share those experiences. But we want to say good morning to everyone, and if you have time, just put hashtag where you from right now, where you're listening to from, and everything. Make sure you share this. This is some great information. The next bias that we're going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, if you have heard of this or not, affinity bias. All right, this is a little different. So affinity bias is also called likes like. All right, likes like. So this bias refers to our tendency to gravitate towards people similar to ourselves. That might mean hiring or promoting someone who shares the same race, gender, age, or educational background. And think about how crazy that can be. We do this subconsciously sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, and family. We do this subconsciously. We see individuals and we automatically assume, yep, same skin, same kin. No, that is not always the case. You understand? Or, oh, this is sister, she can dig what I'm talking about. Look, she got natural hair too, but she could be crazy as cat shit too. You understand what I'm saying? So think about that. Have you ever fell into that type of bias? What about you, Camille?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that, like you said, we like what we like, you know, so we tend to choose people that are like-minded, that like the same things that we do. But what it really does is, yes, I have, you know, but I've learned over the years the power and the beauty of diversifying, you know, your friend circle, your work centers, your whatever it is that you're doing, because really under the surface, you know, most people want the same things. And then there's so much beauty other people can open you up to. But yes, at one point in my life, no, I take that lie back. All of them didn't look the same, because I'm coming from California, which is very diverse, right? So my friends were Vietnamese, Laotian, Filipino, Black, white, mixed, Mexican, you know, Native American, you name it. So I came from a very diverse background. But I started hanging around with people that liked the same things that I liked, you know, and that were more similar to me than they were different. And it's not boring. It is kind of boring because everybody thinks the same. But when you have somebody that can challenge your thought process and you guys can still laugh and, you know, all that stuff, it brings a sense of beauty to the relationships, to the friend groups, to, you know, that everybody doesn't look alike. Everybody doesn't, we have our own separate views about life, and we can share them and we can learn to appreciate each other for them. But I totally understand. And it's just more comfortable. You know, we like to be comfortable with the folks we're around. But, you know, as we grow and mature, like you and I talked about before, you have to come to a point where you are comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because it stretches you and it grows you and it helps you to see things differently and people differently. And so I can appreciate that about my journey. But yes, I have fallen into an affinity bias, especially in picking folks.
Yeah. No.
With.
No, I get it. Just like your mom says, yep, likes like. Yes. Can also be bias of racial / ethical ethics preference leading to racism. You're absolutely right. And so being from where I'm from Detroit, there wasn't a diverse environment. I'm not from that. So it took me to come into the military to really see that, hey, there's individuals that may understand you that don't look like you, but I had to open up and diversify my thought process, or be willing first, because there's individuals that's willing to connect with you that don't look like you.
Absolutely.
Okay? And what we do is we prevent that from happening. We prevent that just because we're waiting to look for someone that wear, let's say, for example, Air Force One's shoes just like I do, right? Or East Coast, they're wearing Tim's like me, so I know this person. Or from West Coast, they're wearing Chuck Taylors like me, so they know where I'm coming from. Hold tight. All right. So this is, like you said, this is a way to diversify yourself, not just your organization, but also your home. Think about the conversations that you're having in your home, especially if you have the environment where you're open to bringing individuals in, because we prevent growth when we stifle thought, right? And when we stifle thought, meaning if you can't have different conversations with other individuals, you're limited to your view of the world, right? So keep that in mind. So this is a way for individuals to be a true champion or an influencer in your workspace, in your home, or any type of organization. Think about individuals that don't look like you, but think about the bottom line. What is this person trying to bring to the table, right? Or what is this individual willing to do? And think about where they come from. They might not have come from your direct home, right? Or your neighborhood, but there's very similar situations that they can understand and bring that to the table as well, and say, oh, wow, I didn't even think about that. I'm glad you experienced that. I've experienced that. So how did you overcome it? See?
Yeah.
You see what you think about that?
Exactly. It helps people see the world when they can't get out of their own neighborhoods. When you diversify the people that are around you, diversify the experiences, the conversations are different. You can see the world through other people's eyes or their experiences. And what you'll notice, a lot of people overseas, they'll be like, oh, people here in the States that have never left, never traveled. They're always like, oh, well, it's this like this and over there. How are you going to tell me about a country that I've been to? And that I spent significant amount of time, years there, living there. How are you going to tell me about a country that you've never even visited? And so it helps to broaden their perspective, their world perspective, which a lot of people need, really, because all they see are the images on TV that are not necessarily true. And most of my friends, some of my best friends don't look like me. Their skin is not the same as mine. Their hair is not the same as mine. Their eyes are not the same as mine. Their thought processes, their backgrounds. And so I learn so much through them. And it shows me places that I want to go or things I want to aspire to. They also are connectors because they don't have the same experience. We're not all in the same circles. So they connect to people that are all around that help to, again, expand my thought process, challenges the way that I think, helps me to see things, and it helps me just to grow as a person. And then also my kids, they talk to my kids and they tell things. And then the other thing we don't think about is age. We like people who are around our same age that has the same kind of stuff, but the wisdom that older people have. And how young people keep us on our toes, And so being surrounded by different age groups is very, very important as well. So likes, but sometimes, we have to learn to like other things because it's good for us.
Absolutely.
Like vegetables. We may not like vegetables and we want to always eat meat. But guess what? You're going to end up with rickets. No, I'm just kidding. But you got to learn that, you may not really, really love it, but you can like it enough in the sense that it's good for you. And you have to have your vitamins. A little pill ain't going to always do it. You got to get that natural nutrient in your body. And so, you know what? I got to like it enough or like me enough that I know that it's good for me.
Exactly. And so like Dandy said, right? She says, yes, I need diversity. And I think we all do, especially if we want to grow. And so I'll always go back to, why do you think the way that you think? Why do you connect with the people that you connect to. Now, it is cool. Yes, it is comfortable. Like you said, it's comfortable to like those that look like you or that think like you. However, you're able to expand and stretch yourself when you're able to connect with people that don't. But the bottom line is the same. So they may stimulate you in a different way and wake up something or show you something that you may not have been able to see. They can bring down that blind spot that you may have had for years. And everyone that you associate with have that same blind spot. Now that you have someone else different in the gumbo, you feel me? Now it can taste a little bit different, and it adds a whole different element to the equation. So it's so important for us to realize who we associate with and why.
Let me use this really quick example. When I was in high school, right? So I had moved here to Georgia from California, and my senior year in school. And I met a young man who he was like, you from California, everybody rich, everybody. I'm like, no, there's hoods in every state. You know what I mean? Like, nope, it's not all this. And he was like, oh, so he wanted to know about the ocean. He'd only seen the ocean on TV. And so I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, we go to the ocean all the time. He was like, man, that's like a dream. And I'm like, a dream? Like, just go to the ocean. We're here in Georgia. The coast is right there. Literally a couple of hours away. But being in that town where nobody had really kind of stepped out to see the ocean, it was something that was unachievable. And he's like, well, I want to go to New York too. Well, go. What's stopping you? When you have your money or whatever, just go. And now he travels all over the world. And I remember years ago, he wrote me a little note, and he was like, I remember when I was telling you that I wanted to see the ocean, and you're like, just go. He was like, I went and I'm going. And he's been traveling ever since. So even though we look alike in things, our experiences were different. And just that little edge of what's stopping you, just go. It's literally on the coast. We're in a coastal state. Just go. Literally opened up his whole awareness, changed his life. That he's out and doing all kinds of stuff and not afraid like he was. So it can be simple. It don't have to be profound.
No, it doesn't.
Just diversifying. So, the people that we're around and the experiences that they have.
That's key. And then also too, we need to really look at and listen to those individuals that look like us and the ones that we like. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to the conversations. Are they stimulating, again, growth? Because there's individuals that you may be surrounding yourself with that are passing fear on you. You get what I mean? Saying, for example, to your point, well, why would you want to go to the ocean? We can't swim. See, Stop it. Stop it. And look, it might be 10 of your friends saying the same exact thing, but it's one friend that say, well, learn.
That was really it. Look, I swim, but
so small. But why don't you just learn? Or, like, to your point, if you've never been somewhere, why don't you go? Because it's that fear. If you have individuals that have every excuse or reason why they won't go to the places they want to go, they're going to throw that on you, and then you will pick it up. And watch this. You really are not afraid, but they've created this environment or this sensation of fear. So now you don't want to go where you truly want to go. Watch this. How about if I want to go overseas? If I want to go overseas, got the money, right? Got the money. All I need to do is get a passport. So as soon as you get the passport, first of all, you don't need anybody's permission to go anywhere. But when we talk and everything, we open up ourselves to that type of ridicule and other people's fears. So sometimes, even though you have people that and you like, and you want to surround yourself with those individuals, some things you just can't say because it won't be received the same way, because not everybody is willing to think differently. You know? Oh boy, let me get to these environment. So it says true. It says it's an eye opener, right? I was raised in California, a melting pot. Yes, yes, yes. Right. Great story. Yep. Yes, you got to go. Right. Excuse this dog in the background. So Minnie tried to talk to me about or talk me out of traveling to Ghana. See, yes, 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 yes. And same here. Same here. So my father's from Ghana. And when I said, you know what, I want to go. Well, why you want to go over there? Well, you go over there, you go get diseases. It's crazy. Yes. But it's the type of people that look like us that think that way when they don't educate themselves. So now they're afraid. Do you know how many people never been and listen, won't ever go? Do you know how many people try to say, hey, don't go into the military, you're just going to go to war and die? Yo, I done been retired and still here. But do you know the funny part is the ones that was saying that they're still where they're at.
And you know that thing I wrote the other day, I saw that Jamila says fear paralyzes people and keeps them hostage from exploring new things. And it's really, really true. I posted a comment yesterday or the day before, and it says people won't change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. You know, and so that fear, once you're stifled in a place so long and you just feel so uncomfortable, when that is unbearable, people are like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. And you'll see solo travelers all the time. I've been afraid all my life to go anywhere because of everything people said, but in my heart, I always wanted to do it.
Yes.
So I got on Facebook and I found this solo trip and group, and I found that it wasn't just me. There's several people out there. And now I've gone and I've been on 30 trips around the world by myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because you don't necessarily have to have somebody, because if they're going to stifle you from that or hand down those emotions, we talked about hand-me-down emotions before, and putting that fear on you that you may not necessarily have, or that fear that you have doesn't necessarily override your desire to grow or to do or step out, then sometimes you got to leave them behind.
Yeah, you do.
Let them stay where they are and you go out and just go.
Yeah.
You'll do that thing that you want. But people try to tell me all the time about certain. I'm like, have you ever been? Like, no. I'm like, oh, that's funny because I have.
See?
You know, and let me
then,
tell you about what it's really like.
And then the question is, who are you going to be mad at when you don't do it?
When you don't. Experience it for yourself. You know, so, just the hardest thing to live with is regret. You know, you go and you don't like it. What did you lose? You found out that you didn't like it and you experienced it for yourself. If you never go, you'll always be what if, maybe.
Exactly.
I don't know.
All right. So you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Okay. So declinism. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this one, but it really is closely related to like negativity bias. Okay. But it's really, and in this time, we can see it, how people talk about like the good old days, right? Talk about, they just get nostalgic about when certain music comes, and they tend to see the past in an overly positive light. And they view the present or the future very, very negatively. And so we think that, oh, things now are worse than they used to be. And then you're like, this one is typically surrounding like states or countries or institutions, things like that. And we forget, because we want to look back on things fondly, but we forget all of the things that happened, the challenges, the hardships. You know, I think about today and people are like, oh, we're in such a worse place. And I'm like, as a woman, you know, just 50, 70 years ago, you know, now I'm able to vote. Now I'm able to have a family without being ridiculed for, in a sense, you know, for being single. I'm able to hold a job in a career field or in a service that, you know, it wasn't really widely known that women, it was small pockets, you know, in the beginning of like Air Force or the WASP or whatever, but that wasn't historically the same thing. Women had to disguise themselves. And, you know, even back in the samurai days, they had to disguise themselves as men just to do what, you know, they wanted to do. And so, yes, we have some challenges, but are they really, really worse than they used to be? So when people talk about, you know, the good old days and then combined with, you know, where all the things that are going on now, we kind of overestimate how great the past was. And we overestimate how negative now is. And then we have this really, really dim future. And so it really clouds our judgment as to the time that we're really, really living in. So it makes us believe that, the worst is yet to come. It's like doomsday thinking, the worst is yet to come. And so, in times like this, we really have to say, okay, we have a negative worldview or whatever, and there's a lot of things that are going on. But what are the facts? What are the evidence? And we keep saying that because facts and evidence will help you to make, with your critical thinking and help you to make logical and rational decisions about life. What is the evidence that supports that right now is worse than 50 years ago? Because I remember 50 years ago what we were doing, or 60 years ago what we were doing. Much of it the same. Is it really worse? But what came out of that? There's so many things that came out of the hardships of back then, that have made life easier for us all. Today, yes, we still have a lot to work on. Yes, we still have things that are going on. It's not like we've arrived or anything like that. But is today really, really bad? Are we still drinking out of segregated fountains? Are we still unable to obtain those passports? What are the facts about the state that we're currently in? So, right now, a lot of people I was reading an article and it was like a lot of people are, feeling depressed and everything like that. And they were like, it might not necessarily be the state that we're in, but because of declinism. Everybody is feeling like I said, doomsday, and it affects our mental health because our views are not really based on facts and things like that. We can still travel. We can still do the things that we want to do. But everybody makes it seem like, we are just in such a rut and that the world is just going to just go to, whatever. And then, another reason for that is, the 24-hour news cycle. We're constantly bombarded with negative and violent images, constantly. And so when we already are feeling a certain way and we see all of these images, even though we can walk outside and see that things are perfectly normal in our neighborhoods, and that we have so much to be grateful for or thankful for, because we constantly sit in front of that TV and we're watching it, confirms what we already have been told or what we've ingested or decided to believe. And then it just makes things so much worse. And then even political campaigns, they run and it's basically talking about the negative things that we have going on. And if you vote for me, how I can make this great. But it's focused on the negative things. So everything around us is negative. And so we tend to be in a mental and physical and emotional decline as a country. And then if everybody believes that, our society is getting worse, then it almost becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because what we believe, what our expectations are, we tend to act on those. And so we act that way, where maybe it couldn't have been if there were some people that stood up and say, it's not that bad, enough people, and we're going to do what we can with what we have, then things might get better. But if we continue to act on all of these negative thoughts, ideals, and feelings, then we can, again, we can fulfill that prophecy ourselves by acting in a manner that supports that and continues to have us go down because we do act on our beliefs. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be that. And we'll talk about how to avoid it. But Seth, do you have any instances where, you had that negative thing or somebody else was talking about how great something used to be, and then it makes you feel like today, or what you did or accomplished wasn't that good. And so there's really no hope for the future.
Have
you ever
not
that?
No, not necessarily, but I do have 2 points about that, and I bring it back to the choices that we have to make.
Mm-hmm.
The choices that we have to make. 2 things. If you are in a situation and individuals are telling you the way things used to be and things were great back then, you need to think in your mind before you say it. For who? Because the bottom line is for who. So it might have been great for you back then, but if I was there back then, it would not have been great for me. You see? So but again, to make sure that the conversation doesn't go south, you need to just try to sit and listen to their point of view, because what we can't do is go back in the past. We're only responsible for the now, because that can create worry and anxiety. And when you think about the social media or even the news, their job is to invoke fear. So when you don't want to be surrounded by all that fearfulness, just understand the mechanics of why things happen first, and then understand the powers that you have. So no, I don't have to believe that. And it might have been that way, looking at the evidence, of course, but then what are you willing to do today? So that's the first point. The other point is people tend to say, or they tend to speak on back in my day. I had a conversation last week about, you ever heard those people, the older individuals, you say, we used to walk to school 6 miles and 5 feet of snow in there. First of all, you probably didn't. Second of all, I don't care. I care, but I'm glad that you're here. But listen, we don't have to do that. What happened back then is not pertinent today. Based off of what's going on right now, thank goodness we have the internet. So the kids don't even have to go to school. They can do it, online. So situations aren't the same. Technology has changed. So if you think about it, is there things that was so great back then that we still need that, because all the things that we have in front of us right now isn't worth it? And I always go back to the rotary phone versus the smartphone. Why was it that great to go back? Why is there any reason we should go back to the rotary phone, ladies and gentlemen? No. So think about those times and how, well, you know what, life was good when we had the rotary phone. Really?
Right. That's the whole rosy effect and nostalgia effect. You know
Right.
what I mean? That's all we had back then. And then when we think back, we didn't think that it took us, 30 seconds to dial
That's
10
right.
numbers, but what we think about was, that click, 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 click. And so we look back on it more fondly than it actually was. And during a lot of time of, racial tensions in our country, people are going back and remembering like, oh, we used to go to the baseball games and it was, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, and we used to do, and you're like, okay, and they forget or block out, or a lot of them don't even know about all of the serious things that were going on in the country, because a lot of people, we jump on these during election times and stuff, or bandwagon politicians, but they've done no research, have no historical references. They don't know what it was like for people that didn't look like them or that weren't in neighborhoods like them, that didn't have certain things that they had. And so they're able to look back on a lot of those things. And even for people that say, Black folks back then, you think about the time when we used to be in a juke joint. You know what I mean? And we used to do this, and the music is what kept you and everything like that. And people look fondly on that. And they don't spend a lot of time talking about the hardships, So because of that, it can cause people to feel like the past was so much happier. It was a better time. And, we talk about, making America great again, like you said, for who? But it's because people tend to look back on things more fondly than they actually were, kind of block out all the bad stuff because we don't want to remember that. It's painful. Right. We don't want to go through that. So we talk about all the good times, which clouds the whole view of everything. Absolutely. For the people that you're talking about, and also the way that you perceive where you're at in the future. Mm-hmm. So it looks like, because you remembered all the good stuff. I remember when I was a kid and we used to play street ball and we used to do all these types of things. Oh, how I missed that. Oh, how I missed that. But I also remember being hungry.
See?
And I also remember having to walk 4 hours to school. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also look uphill, mm-hmm. Paradise Hills. And I also remember the things that I did not have, but then I can get caught up in, we call them superior kids, and how we used to just make stuff happen, and forgetting that we had to do that out of necessity. Absolutely. It was a survival skill. Mm-hmm. It wasn't necessarily because we just wanted to do it and we had the luxury. No, we go and steal them fruit off trees because we had no food. You know what I mean? Or we had to go do these things because we couldn't just readily go out and do, to the store and just buy stuff. So we had to do what we had to do to survive. And truth be told, we have fun doing it while we're working, climbing trees and all that. We're playing with our friends in the meantime. But the reason behind it was because of survival. We had to survive.
Right, right. And to your point too, there's things that I would say is the things that we did experience. Ignorance is bliss, ladies and gentlemen. So, now that we are in the time and in the information age, there's things now that we have, thank goodness that we have, that if we looked back, like, hold on, that was going on. For example, you can say, back in the day, we had our neighborhood was such a community where we can go into anybody's house and everybody knew everybody, right? But if you think about it, now we're able to see and to do a little bit more research to find out not everybody in your neighborhood is mentally there, right? And there's some people that you would not let your son or daughter go to, right? You wouldn't let them connect with because of those type of mental issues. But now we have technology where those individuals may be listed now.
Right.
So now it gives you that information. So you're right. Sometimes you hold on to what was going on in the past because you didn't have the information that would have prevented certain things. So be cognizant of that. It was fun back then. It can still be fun now, but with information, now you can make more of a finite decision on how you move forward. Because if you keep focusing or looking backwards, you don't know where you're going.
Absolutely. And that's a good segue into how to avoid it. And it really is, even when we look back fondly, what was it really like? We were kids, we were this and this and that. We weren't really aware of all the things, the struggles that some adults had to go through. So the best thing to do is go back and look at statistics, look at poverty levels, go look at life expectancy, go look at median income, go look at different things that were going on, the statistics from back then, to see that, I might have been okay, but maybe my parents are struggling a little bit, or give you a more a factual basis on what was actually going on in the time. And then another way to avoid that particular one is declinism, is to look at all the good things that are going on right now. That's right. Lot of people, like you said, the worry and anxiety, one keeps you stuck in the past, one keeps you worried about the future, fear and all this kind of stuff. But look at what's going on good right now, because despite everything that's going on in this world, we all can find one good thing that's going on with us today. If not 3 or 4 or 10 or 15. So many businesses are booming. Yes, the economic what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? State is in a difficult spot right now, but people are becoming entrepreneurs. People are being able to hone their crafts and making money off of it. People are able to focus on their families, and sometimes family is more important than the dollar. People are able to connect with their children or repair relationships because they've always been on the go. And now we got to sit here and look at each other and figure this thing out, so there's so much that can be said that is positive about right now. First time ever we're doing this homeschool where we're able to be with our kids or teleworking and being able to be home and take care of the things and, and still get paid and not have to waste gas going, 45 minutes, an hour one way and then back and fighting traffic and all this and all that. We saving time every single day, saving energy, saving money. My laundry probably ain't that much because I got on a nice shirt, but I got on yoga pants. You know what I'm saying? So there's so much that we can look forward to that's positive about right now to help us to stop going into that decline, stop going into that negativity bias, because again, once something negative happens, we find everything to confirm that, and it keeps pulling us down into a mental, ditch, a hole or whatever, this black hole, and it's harder to climb out of. But gratitude every single day, finding the positive in your day will help to combat that. So
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I will always go back to ask yourself, what is it that you want to do in your conversations? Like, what is the result? What is the reason for? Because if you think about it, individuals that's telling you how things were in the past or what they've experienced and how it was that much better, essentially they're saying that what's going on right now, or you're not there yet. You get what I mean? Or you haven't experienced what I had to experience or that I've endured to help me to be the person that I am. So since you don't, and since you haven't been there, you're going to be this type of person. Think about it. There's some elder individuals that feel as though because they haven't struggled and had to, feed the cows back in the day and had to pick up barns and everything, that the new generation of kids don't have work ethics. That's not exactly true. So how about we teach them those work ethics based off of what they have right now? There's no reason to feed cows in the morning, okay, to get that milk. They can go around the corner of Walmart, ladies and gentlemen. And the deal is finding out and connecting with them and showing and instilling that work ethic now. You can't go back. I'm sorry. It's done and over with right now. And there's no way right now that we know of that we can get back there. All right.
It's so funny that every generation, I'm saying this real quick, but every generation probably felt the same way about the generation.
Absolutely.
Because when they was back there with horse and buggies, and then now we got cars. Oh, we used to walk, we used to do this, we used to have to clunk, clunk, clunk. Now you guys are just rolling along. But every new generation, the generation before talks about how lazy they were or how this, but they become more innovative. So they stop using hands and start using minds.
Exactly.
It's turned as, it's spoken about as being lazy, but it's far from that. They're exercising different muscles because we evolve. And so, when people say that, I'm like, y'all.
And so that's what I mean. So we need to watch out and listen to hear those individuals, hear them out, but make sure that we don't become like that. For example, I love music. I DJ and I produce music. I have to check myself when I say, hey, the best music was in the 90s or the best R&B was then, because in the 90s, our parents or our, family members were saying the best music was in the 80s or 70s. So let's get out of that and let's say, hey, this is good music for this time. And watch this. If you can't dig it, that does not mean that it's not diggable for other individuals. So again, watch your energy that you're trying to, again, bandwagon, right? Bandwagon people like, you know what? No, that ain't music. Why, shut up, boy. I'm about to put on some this real music. See? So what you're doing is you're shutting out individuals. So
and stifling creativity.
It is. It's stifling creativity and also imagination, because you don't have to downplay or discredit what's going on right now. What you can do, you can help influence it. You can say, hey, I hear what you're listening to, and listen, and then say, well, here, how about you listen to this as well? Right. So you share instead of tear down. And that's what we do subconsciously. So just make sure you don't do that. Make sure you don't tear down an individual based off of what they haven't experienced. Okay. And saying, well, this used to be good, but as soon as they got this new person in this position, now it's going all to the pots. Chill out. You understand? Chill out. But we're getting ready to go to our last one, ladies and gentlemen. Name bias. All right. Name bias.
Can I say this?
Go ahead.
Hashtag where you from.
Oh yeah.
You have biases about the names about people from where they're from.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Right.
Where you from?
Yes. So make sure you put where you're from and just think about this. So let me give you guys a quick definition. That's when you judge a person based on their name and perceived background. All right. This is especially important when we are connecting with individuals or want to. And for example, just being real quick, my situation, my name is Seth. All right. My name is Seth. However, my father's from Ghana. So my mother made the conscious decision to give me his first name, but then I did not have his last name. His last name is Ajay Frimpong. All right. From Ghana. Her thought process is she did not want me to be excluded from things, especially when getting a job or just trying to work in this society, even going to school and be treated differently. So on paper, ladies and gentlemen, when you see Seth Miller, this is not what you're thinking. So maybe sometimes the name either gets you in the door or it keeps you behind the door. So just think about ways that you can avoid that. Camille, have you ever dealt with that?
I have. During my psychology, whatever, we did a lot of different studies and stuff, and one of them was name bias, and it shows that people with Black sounding or African American sounding or ethnic sounding names, they're less likely to get a job 2 times. Or white sounding name is twice as likely to get hired than a Black sounding name. And, they did studies with all things on the resume exactly the same, except for the name. And that one thing disqualified that particular resume, even though all they did was switch names. That's it. Mm-hmm. And so it proves that people do create judgment about who you are based on your name. And so I used to say that all the time. My kids' names are Kayla and Julia. And people that have all these names that are hard to pronounce and they associate that with difficult people oftentimes, and that they must be ghetto or they must be this, or, an Asian sounding name may, depending on if you're in a techie department or something like that, it may carry more weight than Camille. You know what I mean? Or depending on your field, they might give the real name. So they might subconsciously or unconsciously choose who they think is a better fit just based on that, because typically they think that Asians are better in IT, or, techies, or white males are better at math, or, whatever, you name it, it's out there. Black women are better cooks. I'll just say. And so you will, again, a door may be opened or it may be shut based on a name. And it's a sad thing that we have to do that, but it's true.
And that's the deal.
True. And it's been proven. So.
Yes, it is. And it's very, very unfortunate. So what can we do in that process? We do not have to judge individuals based off of their name, prejudge individuals based off of their name, but let's look at their attributes. Let's look at their skills, right? Let's look and see what they can bring to the table. And for my brother's point right here, right, he says, give the real name from Africa to members of your family. So it's funny. My middle name is Ajay. My daughter's middle name is Ajay. And my son's middle name is Ajay. So it's my responsibility to hold on to that, right? Because I understand what it means. And it's not everybody's responsibility. It is my responsibility. But it's also, it's my responsibility to know that I have to set my daughter and my son up at least in the realm of success because of this society, right? Well, I have to, and this is just me personally. There's some people may say, hey, well, well, it doesn't matter what his name is. I want to name my daughter Tequila, and I like tequila. Okay, but understand what certain names are associated with. Right now, you may love the name, right? You may love the name, and before the alcohol was named, tequila might have been a great name, but look at society. So society may think, oh, okay, so you came up with that name. I guess that's how you was conceived, with some tequila.
Or that was your mama's favorite drink,
right? Or Alizé, or Mercedes. So look, your mama didn't drive one, so she birthed one. Okay, whatever. So that is the perceived notion, and that may not be the case, but we have to make sure we set that up. You get what I mean?
Absolutely. I've had conversations, like I said, with people several times, and I'm like, oh, you might want to rethink that. And here's why. And I would give them a little bit of background. And I say, if you still choose to, because names mean certain things to people. But they also carry weight in society. And then they also say that your name is a reflection, or it's who you are.
That's right.
And I just, for me, and I'm not saying anybody, if there's somebody out there named Tequila or something like that, I'm not, dogging your parents, they named you that for whatever, and you be proud of your name. But I just don't want my child to have people judging them because you're named after an alcoholic. That's the best your mom could do. She must have been drunk when she had you.
Exactly.
And so. Mm-hmm. Yes. And then people tease them about that, and it affects their self-esteem, and it affects the way that they behave, and they start acting out, and it affects the way that they're able to interact with people. And so they already have challenges, and then we put another one like that on them. And for me, I'm looking out for the kids, so I just be like, but if that's what you choose, then okay. You know what I mean? Then okay. But because that's your choice, but you have to think a little bit further than just now. And kids can change their name when they get grown. Like my daughter, she's like, Mom, I want change your last name if you want to. I don't care. You're grown now. You can make that decision on what you want to do. And some people his name is energy. Yes, don't forget that. And some people want to. One guy, his name was close to like a genitalia, and so he ended up changing his name to Zane. When he was old enough, he was, I think, in his late teens or early 20s, because people would continue to make fun of his name all the time. And he was just like, you know what? I'm changing it. So he changed his entire name. I don't blame him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it does carry, and people prejudge you based on your name. We had contests like, okay, this name is this. Where you think they from? What you think they look like? What do you think, how she sound? All that kind of stuff. And people just kind of do it unconsciously because we look at a name and we assume things about people. So I want to give my kids the best chance, knowing that there are already some challenges that they have. I don't want to do something that's going to create additional lifelong challenges for them in the realms of success.
Right. And then sometimes we have to watch how we think. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're talking about, the confirmation bias. We need to understand why we think the way we think. And when it comes down to the name bias, based off of a person's name, we may assume that they only have certain capabilities.
Yes.
And that's not true. That is not the truth. Look and see what the individual has done and to see their credibility, right? Let's see their credentials, because and I'm gonna be completely honest, we came into a situation where a dentist's name was Jamal. Now, right off the bat, how do you think Jamal looked or would look? Okay. But going to the office, not only was Jamal not an African American, he was an older white gentleman with all these credentials on the wall, doctor, right, dentist, and did a very, 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 very great job at what he did. So it's not about the name, but we have to be cognizant to make sure we don't put up that barrier, because we're assuming all Jamals look like this, and with the hood and talking like that. That's not the case, because if you're not a part of that family, you don't know what was put behind that name. That could have been their great grandfather's name passed down, right? Someone, a great friend, someone that was influential in their family. So just think about that. And if you are a pioneer in your organization or an influencer, you want to make sure that you create that type of diversity and to help individuals to think outside of the norm, right? You have to think outside of the box, because if you keep creating the same status quo, then you're not changing anything, especially when certain things like that needs to be changed.
Yes. I had the same thing. I had two commanders. One was Tyrone and one was Craig. I walked in the office looking for one thing, and two white men, and they were older white gentlemen. And so totally, I'm like, oh, and then I didn't want to go. I had to look at the last name to make sure I was talking to the right person, upon first meeting them. And I'm like, oh, wow, like your right name really is Tyrone. You know what I mean? And so, we laugh about that. And they was like, yeah, I get that all the time. People expect a certain thing. I'm like, oh, well, where'd you grow up at? Oh, well, I grew up in cornfields or whatever. I'm like, where your mom get that name from? But we would just laugh about it and talk about the background. But that they had to experience that all the time, that people thought they were something that they're not. And a lot of times, if not for that box, what your ethnicity is or whatever your background is, then people wouldn't know. So I've done that as well, because our minds, like we talked about last week, it takes shortcuts. There's a heuristic effect is what they call it. And our brains take shortcuts to minimize and filter out all of the stuff to help us make quick decisions. So when we see names and we're looking through 50 resumes and we only have an hour to do it, our minds automatically flip to what we already know. Typically, Craig or Tyrone or Jamal is associated with Black people. And if you want your organization to look one way, you're probably not going to pick Jamal. And you might miss out because Jamal was really a white person anyway. And he probably had the credentials, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Sue, a name like Sue. Could be Sue or Deb or whatever, could be the person that you're looking for. But because of the name, you automatically eliminate them from the list of possibilities.
Or what about a Terry?
Or Terry. My uncle's Terry too. You
don't know. You look at it, you may think this is a woman. So there's certain, and then what we do is we will attach our own biases to what we think. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're talking about. How to not fall into that trap, right? And then not to you falling into that trap. You are excluding diversity, and you're excluding your thought process when it comes down to expanding and your own thought.
Absolutely. Same thing, gender biases, like you said. We put in Y's in names now that typically have I's that would differentiate between a male and a female, but now the males have the Y's and, starting with K's instead of C's. And so it confuses people. And I have my daughter has a young, beautiful young lady. Her name is Erin. When I thought initially I thought it was ERIN or something like that, but no, or ERYN, but it was AARON.
See?
The male spelling of it. But that was, a family thing. And it was passed down. But had I seen her name on a piece of paper, I would have been confused at the person I was looking at, and then she explained or whatever. But we automatically, our mind, because of the biases, because of the things that we've been taught to believe, or we know that we've been conditioned to, our biases play a huge part in our decision making and how we act. Even when it, like I said, in terms of hiring people or having people on our team, when only given a list of names. And so we have to be very, very cognizant of that, making sure that we look, is the person qualified? Despite what their name is the person qualified? Are they who we're looking for, based on all of these, pieces of information, not just about how I feel about a particular name or, what I associate with that name. So we have to be very, very conscious of that.
Yes, you do. You do. And ladies and gentlemen, hopefully this is making sense to you, right? Hopefully this is what you're getting something from this, and share, please, thumbs up, hearts, and everything. We talked about the confirmation biases. We talked about the anchoring biases, the contrast biases, bandwagon effect, the affinity bias, and declinism, right? And then also the name bias. So let's utilize this time, especially today, this morning, or wherever you are in this world this evening. I saw someone is in Japan, so shout out to you. Just take this time and understand what type of biases that you have. What has it prevented, and what has it enabled? And how do you want to carry on the rest of this year and your life, right? And your life. What you got? Final word, Camille.
Just being aware of them helps us to behave and act differently. Sometimes we do things and we're not aware, and that's why we're here, trying to bring awareness of the things that may stifle us in life, stifle our thinking, stifle our relationships, to help bring light to those things and help us to find ways to overcome them, to be more successful, not only in our own thinking, but in our lives in general. So with all of these biases, they happen on a subconscious, unconscious level a lot of times. But now that you know better, take a pause, and you can do better. And you can stop and think about thinking. I always say that we don't take enough time thinking about why I'm feeling this way, why I'm acting this way, why am I feeling, having this adverse reaction when there was nothing really wrong. And then we can make better choices about how we want to proceed in the future than we have in the past. And then we can learn that standing alone is okay. Being in your own thoughts is okay. Going against the grain is okay. When it's right, it's right. So
that's right. That's right. And again, make sure you're getting your own, you're doing your research. You do your research and find out if what you feel is actually true. But again, when you find out, listen, you can't refute the truth. Okay, you can't do that, right? You can deny a lie, but you can't deny the truth. So be aware of the information that you get, especially if you're holding on to something. If you're still holding on to something that's back in that stemmed from the 60s, 50s, 70s, or even yesterday, is it still relevant? Okay, is it still relevant for this type of people? Is it still relevant for your life? Is it going to be relevant for your child? So you can change and manipulate the climate in your house, organization, and your employment.
Yes.
So you decide how you want to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our time. We love y'all and we appreciate you guys for being on. We thank you, thank you, thank you. Please share, and follow us. Hopefully you guys are doing that. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook. All right.
Check.
Yes, it's Sanity Check with 2 Ks, right? Sanity Check with 2 Ks. And please like, share, because we can only do what we do with your help. All right. And so we want to make sure you have a great Saturday and connect with individuals. And we will see you next week, right?
Hello.
All right.